Which are the Palermo protocol's main features? First of all, the protocols give for the first time a detailed and comprehensive definition of trafficking and smuggling, or distinguishing clearly them. The protocols apply to all people, but particularly women and children, since member states have recognized the specific vulnerability. The protocols offer tools in order to empower law enforcement and strengthen border control, integrating these by also strengthening the response of the judiciary. And the main goals of the protocols are to catch and prosecute the traffickers, yet at the same time to protect the victims of the crime. Assistance to victims is crucial to law enforcement, since the victim can provide for the evidence necessary to successfully prosecute the traffickers. On the other hand, the protocols from the protocols arise the duties for the member states of criminalization for the behavior indicated in the same legal sources. It's possible they also set the general framework for adoption of preventive measure on this kind of crime, and of the adoption of a mechanism for victim protocols, especially in the trafficking of human being protocols. And on the other side is highlighted the lack of criminal liability for migrants. This specifically highlighted in the smuggling protocols on the Article 5. Also from the protocols derive the more effective police and judicial cooperation tools, such as the spontaneous information police exchange, the possibility to set up joint investigation teams for investigating this kind of crimes, the adoption of special investigative measures such as undercover operation, electronic surveillances, and controlled delivery in this kind of investigation. Given these general legal principles, on the other side, there are other kind of investigation on the trafficking of human beings, especially not in the smuggling, that can derive from the so-called trafficking indicators, because on the smuggling of human beings, usually we have an international perspective. So we have the movement of a big flow of persons from the poor countries to the richest countries, especially in Europe, in the States, or in other countries of the western part of the world, called western part of the world. But the trafficking indicators help us to identify possible victim of trafficking also inside the same national context. And the status of an illegal immigrant should not be an obstacle to this recognition. The use of the so-called THB indicators is recommended by international organizations such as the International Organization for Migrants, or the International Labour Organization, or the UNODC, to effectively cope with this kind of investigation. In any case, not all the indicators represent in all situations involve trafficking in humans, although the presence or absence of any of the indicators neither proves nor disproves that human trafficking is taking place. Their presence should lead to investigation, and they can play a role on identifying such victims. Generally identified these 6 different trafficking indicators: general indicators, specific indicators for children, domestic servitude, sexual exploitation, labor exploitation, and begging and petty crimes. In theory, each time the investigator, the prosecutor, the law enforcement agent, or the representative of the law enforcement agency identify one of these indicators, one of these traffic indicators, an investigation should be launched on this person, or on the person emerging from these the indicators. And in this sense, a use of so-called spy crimes can be considered a very effective tools. In this sense, for example, in many offices of the prosecutor were adopted many investigative protocols on the trafficking of human beings arising from trafficking indicators. And for example, in Italy, in the Immigration Act adopted in 1998, a specific rule was introduced to effectively protect and guarantees the right of the victim of a crime, giving them, for example, the recognition of the status and the visa permit, and the issue of a visa permit for a person who effectively cooperate with the prosecutors and law enforcement agencies. So we have, for example, a double track protection on the judicial side and on the social side, with the release of immigration visa for migrants under danger or other form of exploitation, giving cooperative statements, the possibility to participate to program for assistance social integration, the recognition of intermediation role for NGOs and social services, and so-called adoption of multi-agency cooperation, so the attempt to involve all the different institutions and agencies, social agency and state agency involved in this program. And the example of these are the protocols signed in many office of the prosecutor in Italy, involving heterogeneous and miscellaneous actors to cope with this phenomenon. As I told you at the beginning, and the hitting point of when I highlighted the hitting point of this video, I want also to examine a very important case that was recently celebrated here in Sicily. As I told you, immediately after the shipwreck on the 3rd October. On the 3rd of October 2013 occurred in Lampedusa, where 360 persons died at a few miles, and when they were a few miles from the shore of Lampedusa. And at the time, another crowded fishing boat caught fire, capsized, and sank near the shore of this teeny rocky Italian island, famous more for tourism, for its beautiful seas and beaches, than for these terrible effects. And after the shipwreck, and the boat, more than 500 people were present, and 360 of them died in a terrible way. As usual, in this kind of case, the alleged captain of the Lampedusa boat was a Tunisian man named Khaled Ben Salem, was immediately arrested because he was indicated by the survivors as the skipper, as the captain of the boat, and so he was accused for the crime of smuggling of human beings.